Kindness is described as the quality of being generous, helpful, and caring towards others. It involves a genuine desire to improve another person's well being, often driven by empathy and without expecting reward. Hi guys, it's Media Yaps, and today I kind of wanted to touch in on a topic that's kind of been in my mind for a bit, and this is going to be more of an anime-based episode. As I said before, this is Media Yaps. This is not just about movies, TV shows, not just about like superhero ones, not just about like all the normal like live action stuff. This is going to involve a lot of animation stuff as well, and anime is a big part of that. And today I kind of wanted to keep going on this character-driven study videos that I've been doing lately, and talk more about kindness today. And kindness in fiction is such a fun thing to qualify because in comparison to real life, you're able to really see who is what. Because in real life, these situations don't come up very often, I feel like, where you see somebody's true character in the face of danger, right? Because you always know, like, people can say that they're this, they're that, but you really don't know how good of a person somebody is until the time comes for them to show that kindness or show that they're really not that good of a person, right? And unlike in fiction, you can't really like manufacture those situations. Well, you technically can, but in fiction, you are able to, put characters in these situations to show that they're good people, if that makes sense. And there's never really a way to prepare for these situations, but in fiction, you're able to write those situations. You're able to write those situations that are going to make characters react in kind, And the characters I kind of wanted to use to describe this were the two main characters from probably two of the two most popular anime of the past like decade or so, and that's My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer. And obviously their two main characters, Izuku Midoriya and Tajiro Kamado. And they represent the utmost epitome of kindness in my eyes. Because they're the type of kind where they have that same empathy and that same love for the people around them, but it's like a kindness that has boundaries. It's a kindness that isn't like flawed directly in my eyes, right? It's a kindness that allows for them to experience other emotions, to experience hate, to experience like love, to experience like negative emotions, while also being able to still give off that kind vibe. They're still able to keep their emotional like spectrum on the right side, right? They're not people that are gonna sit there and do things for mostly their own benefit. They're the type of people that are doing things for the benefit of everybody else around them. Deku's a hero and Tanjiro's a demon slayer, somebody who puts his life solely on the line to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And I wanted to use them as like examples of kindness in fiction. I think they're the best ones, as I just said. They are two people who have seen the utmost worst of humanity, and not just humanity, but their worlds. So I'm gonna kind of go over both of them. I'm gonna go over Tanjiro first because I think his is a little bit more simple to describe, and Deku has a lot more like context behind his. So with Tanjiro, the story starts with him, showing that kindness who he is. He's able to sit there and take on the man of the house role after his father died at such a young age, and he's able to kind of do that with no complaints at all. I feel like in a lot of times people, even if you're doing it, you're gonna complain to yourself. You're gonna be like, oh, I hate doing this, I don't want to do this, but he seems completely a-okay because he knows he's helping out his family, right? And solely because it's the right thing to do, solely because he's the man of the house. And the story starts with him losing his family and immediately being thrown into a situation where now he has to make it so that doesn't happen to anybody else, right? So you can kind of point to it and say, oh, well, he's only driven by a selfish desire to save his sister, but in reality, that's not a selfish desire, right? That selfish desire is something that's completely for the benefit of her. The easiest option there would be to have let her die by Giyu, right? And then never become a demon slayer. The hard option was to sit there, risk everything, become a demon slayer, knowing that he could die definitely during that, right? So that's what I would say for him, and then it's shown throughout the story multiple times that he is shown to explicitly be a pure-hearted person, somebody who has complete empathy for the people around him, somebody who shows that kindness towards everyone, who's described as having things like kind eyes, who's being overly like nice to the people around him, who gives second chances, but also in the sense of that he's not completely naive, right? I think you see that a lot with like more kind characters, especially in shonen. But I feel like people don't talk about it in the sense that while he's kind, he's not dumb, right? He's kind, but he's willing to do the things that he needs to do. You know, I think the biggest example of this is the demons in the story, right? You know, you see all the really sad backstories. You see all like how they were very much human, right? How they were victims in the situations that they're in, right? They're all victims in these situations, but they are not free from blame, right? And you see it very early. You see that very early with the Spider Mother demon, right? She's killed countless innocent people and demon slayers, and he's able to tell that feels acceptance for her death, in a sense that he knows that, okay, maybe there's something bigger going on, but he doesn't sit there and go out of his way to not kill her and be like, oh, you know what, I can tell that you've been going through things, so I'm gonna like let you live. No, he still understands that as a demon, it's his job to kill her and put her down and put her out of her misery, but he has the kindness to do it in a painless and quick way, right? He doesn't sit there and use one of the regular water breathing forms like the water surface slash. He uses the blessed rain after the drought, which is something that feels like a calming rain as they die, right? Instead, what drives him later in the same arc to, you know, unlock the breath of the sun is not like a need for power. Well, it is a need for power. That power came in a desire of a need, but it also stemmed from the fact that he was in that fight solely to save his sister, right? His whole thing at the end of that fight was me and Nezuko's bonds won't be severed by anyone, right? So it was never a thing of I'm going to beat you. It was always a thing of you're not going to take her away from me, right? Even in other, and I think a real good way of showing it is his whole like relationship with Akaza, right? Akaza goes and kills his mentor, right? And you know, and you can see that even in that kindness, he still has that anger, right? He still has that I'm going to beat you myself, right? He still has that mindset of you need to be put down. You're a bad person. And he also shows genuine hatred. He has hatred for Muzan, right? There is no, oh, you know, maybe Muzan can be redeemed. No, that's not a thing. He's like, you're going to die. Like, I'm going to kill you. Like, me or one of us are going to put you down because that's what needs to be done. And I have another video planned for Muzan because I think he's like the perfect villain for that story. And I know people hate on him. I know people say, oh, Kokushibo and Akaza are like way better written. I agree. But I think Muzan is very underrated in what he means for the story overall, what he does for that story. That's a whole nother video though. He's not the point of this video. But as I was saying, like Tanjiro's like kind heart is like very much like the point of his character, but it never feels overshadowed by all the other emotions, but the story allows him to feel all those negative emotions. It never feels like he's just kind just to be kind. It never feels fake. It never comes across as something that's manufactured. It comes across as something that's genuine, that's his main thing, but is always going to take the back seat when needed be, right? He still does his job. He kills demons. He feels empathy for them because he can smell, like, you know, he can tell with Upper Moon 6, right? During the entertainment district arc, at the very end, he was able to kind of put it aside and be like, y'all are just like me and Nezuko, right? He's able to feel empathy for them, but he does also understand that they needed to go, right? And I think it's just a beautiful way. I think Demon Slayer's writing in general is very underrated. I think people don't give it enough credit. You know, I always see the carried by animation stuff and all that, but I really don't think it's given enough credit. I really think it's way better than most of us give it credit for. I think it's beautiful how it's done, and I think it's super great. I think everything that's in it is there for a reason. I think it has the best symbolism out of any of like the new gen big like shows and stuff. I think it does it a lot better than people give it credit for. You can harp on it for other things, but I really do think the symbolism and how it does its characters and the context of the story is really well. I'm not gonna go too much into it because I have a couple videos planned for Demon Slayer. As I said, just Muzan, you know, Yoriichi. I'm gonna have him make a strongest video. I think he's like a great example of it. But moving on, Deku, right? Deku's a little bit more I feel like realistic in the sense that his you always see that kindness from him too, like that wants to be a hero, that ability to move before you even think about it, because at the end of the day, that's what he is. He's a hero through and through, right? And his setbacks are born from bullying for things that he can't do anything about, things that he was born with, being quirkless. I think that resonates really well with a lot of people, right? There's a lot of things that, people mostly get bullied for, things that they can't really control, right? Whether that's their race, whether that's their gender, whether that's like, anything, like whether that's their sexuality, stuff that they really don't have that much control over, they'll face flag for it. They'll get bullied for it. It's a very great term for disability, right? Because that's what it is in that world. It's a disability. I feel like I never hear people say that about that, but being quirkless is very much a disability in that world. It's a bigger one than usual disabilities, and it's not as like a, you think of disability, you think missing an arm, missing a leg, a mental illness, all right? But in that world, missing a superpower is just as big as missing a limb, right? Quirks are continuously described as like muscles or limbs in that story, and that's what he's missing basically, right? And I think a big part of that is it's shown that even through all of that, he kind of keeps that same heroic look on life. He keeps that same optimism on life, right? But again, just like Tanjiro, he's allowed to feel other emotions. But at the same time, that kindness and that heroism still pushes forward. I'm going to talk about his heroism in a different video because I think that's completely different from his kindness. But his kindness as a person allows him to feed into that heroism, right? I think his kindness as a person allows him to feel empathy for the people around him. He feels empathy for Shigaraki. I think my favorite panel of all of My Hero isn't the amazing panels, the United States of Smash, the final Smash from Deku, Bakugo versus All For One, the Medi Todoroki crazy panels, Endeavor's awesome panels. It's the panel where Deku says to the One For All spirits, I want to save that young child, because it's like the perfect showing of everything that makes him, right? It's the perfect showing of what makes him so worthy of being the number one hero, right? What makes him so worthy of being the example for an entire generation as the hero that means that you can do it, right? And I think it's perfect how it's done, right? And I think it's a great contrast on all the characters around him, right? I think that's what Demon Slayer really lacks, because a lot of its characters kind of lack writing in that sense. But while for Deku, you're able to like kind of see that kindness, right? You're seeing other heroes who might not be as kind of people, right? Obviously like your Bakugos and your Endeavors, people that really aren't that good of people, but they're still heroic, right? But Deku shows what it means to be a great person while also being a great hero, right? You're able to see that empathy for everyone around him, right? Whether that's through his empathy for Shinso, whether that's through his empathy, as I said, just for Shigaraki, his empathy for All For One at the very end. Like, he still kills him, but he also says, you're just a lonely old man, right? And being heroic is part of being kind. He's being helpful for other people. As I just said, the definition, it's a genuine desire to improve another person's well-being without expecting reward. And that's what heroism really is. He's not expecting reward. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do, right? It's that understanding that we're all human at the end of the day. It's that understanding that, he's trying his best to be there for everyone around him, right? He puts his life on the line for Koda. He puts his life on the line for almost everyone that he meets, because he knows what it means to not have somebody there for him. One of the biggest things for him and Bakugo's character is the fact that he sat there and tried to help Bakugo, him with no power, tried to help the most powerful student that they knew, right? And that kindness can also be a detriment, right? You can see how that kindness backfires on him specifically more, because now it's a thing of you're not taking care of yourself as much. You're throwing your body on the line, you're throwing yourself on the line for everyone else around you before you even think about you, right? And that's kind of what I'm like looking towards it for right there, right? And they also both have the intention. As I said, it's not expecting some reward, it's not expecting to be paid back, it's expecting just because it's what they should do, because they're heroes, because they're demon slayers. And that's what it really means. And And yeah, that's kind of all I had to say for this. I just kind of wanted to make a video on this. I kind of like just thought about it and I was like, man, this will make a fun video. You know, as always, thank you guys for listening or watching, however you guys experience this. I appreciate you guys for tuning in lately, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.